Hi, hello, welcome back. My name is Devraj, it's Mysticism and the Body. Back looking at the 22 Esoteric Tarot keys, and today I'm going to be looking at the Magician, key 1. Something really useful to understand about the Esoteric Tarot and unless you really grasp what these keys are actually trying to do, because it's kind of mechanical in a way, unless they really grasp that, then they're a little bit, and it goes a lot into, people discuss the keys, as though our conscious opinion of what they look like is important and relevant, which with many things that we might look at, of course it would be, but with these keys, that's not really so important. These keys were created by the direction of Dr. Paul Foster Case for Builders of the Adytum, something approaching a century ago. And if you've ever engaged at all with Builders of the Adytum coursework, or you may have heard it anyway, one of the things that is said very, very often is that the subconscious mind, also known as the unconscious mind, the kind of Freudian concept, is always amenable to suggestion. And so if you're aware of this phrase and its meaning, then you will understand implicitly the value of these keys and how they function, in that each key contains multiple symbolic elements, and those are being impressed on your unconscious mind as you either look at the key in a kind of meditative state or meditative way, or, if you've worked with it a bit, you conjure it up into your mind's eye using your imagination and try to hold it there. When you do those things, the symbols on the key affect change in the unconscious mind. They are like suggestions operating into the unconscious. And the belief is that you can use this to create actual physical changes in the body, subtle changes. I'm currently also looking, if you're following this channel, at the Pharma Fraternitatis, cornerstone Rosicrucian manifesto from the early 17th century. And as we'll see, it's a lot about creating a temple or an inner space inside of your brain, effectively, a kind of inner sanctum. And one of the ways that this is achieved is by using symbology, by allowing the symbol to be imprinted inside of you, and the suggestions that it makes to the unconscious mind cause actual physical changes, subtle physical changes in how your body operates, particularly in relation to how it processes the sunlight that's naturally present in food. So you're looking at the keys, you're conjuring them up in your mind, and as you do this, particularly when you stay with a key for a while, it starts to very subtly create changes inside your body and your mind. And this is useful to understand. Sometimes I hang out on esoteric kind of discussion groups, and people kind of give their opinions about the keys and which set of keys is best, and this one, that one. And it's extremely rare I kind of hear anybody actually understand what the keys are trying to do. It's not really so much about your conscious opinion of a key. You might think this key is really horrible, and that there's that the Crowley one is much better, or the Golden Dawn one is better, or this one over here is much better, you like it more. That's your kind of egoic self-reflection. That's not really the domain that the key is operating in. So it's very, very useful to understand this. The keys were created with the intention of facilitating actual subtle physical changes in your body and in your brain. So that said, that's why it's so useful to be able to build up this image of, say, the Magician or one of the other keys in your mind and hold it there for a while, or do your best. It's tortuous, I find. It's tortuous. I'm absolutely not a natural visualizer. But they do create change, and one of the other things that I notice, working with the 22 keys a lot in my imagination, is that they create psychological change. They dig through stuff. It's like you're activating some part of your deep unconscious, and as you do that, it kind of, stuff that's in the way is kind of liberated. If you imagine your mind is full of all sorts of gunge and stuff that you haven't really looked at or cleared out, and you're trying to create a clear mind, it digs up because these keys activate deep inside the unconscious mind. So this is all useful. You can process psychologically using these keys. I'm not saying that's all you should do, but they certainly do have that effect, amongst other effects as well. Okay, so we're looking at the Magician this week because I've been following the way the keys are laid out on the cube of space an esoteric glyph that we've looked at before. I won't bring it up right now. And we've looked at the 3 axes of the cube, keys 20, 12 and 0. And now we're going to look at the 6 faces plus the center point of the cube. And something to remember here is that these 6 faces and center point, those are the 7, those also are the 7 planets studied by the ancients. Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter and Saturn. And the 7 double Hebrew letters. So those are useful correspondences to be aware of. And as this is the first of the 6 faces, we're going to start with the first one, which is above. Basically, this key, if you're building up the cube in your imagination, is placed above you, looking down onto you, essentially. So as usual, let's go through some of the attributes and the symbols. Attributes first, that's that kind of basic sort of geeky sort of stuff it's useful to know about the key. It's called the Magician. Key 1. Remember the pack actually starts with key 0, so it's not the first key. It's assigned to the Hebrew letter Beth, which means a house. If you're into the esoteric colours, you know its colour is yellow. It's assigned to the planet Mercury. It's found on the top of the cube of space, as we've just seen, and on the tree of life, it's the path from Keter at the top down to Binar. So those are some attributes. Now let's look at the kind of symbology, and really, I think the most important thing about this key, you know, I was just looking, and by the way, I do recommend that you check out Dr. Paul Foster Case's book, Tarot: Key to the Wisdom of the Ages. There you'll find more about the attributes and the symbology. You know, it helps to deepen the understanding. The fundamental idea with the Magician is kind of twofold. It's like a channel. You know, this guy is basically a channel. He's got this wand in his right hand, and with his left hand he's pointing down. So you have this, and he's looking down in the same direction. You have this sense that he's channeling something from above to below. So that's one core concept. And the second core concept is not so much that he's channeling energy, because you can channel energy, it's rather he's channeling ideas, and it's a sense that the rational mind, the objective mind, is putting in order the world that surrounds us. And that ideally, if the person's a very clear channel, their mind is very clear, then they do it according to a kind of divine archetypal blueprint. So even when you arrange your room and set it up a certain way that you like, or if perhaps you're bringing up kids and and there's a certain way that you want them to be, if your mind is very clear, then you'll do a good job of this. And if your mind is clouded with a lot of unconscious kind of stuff that hasn't been processed, maybe you won't be so good at it. Maybe you'll create a lot of chaos around you, or maybe your kids will just embody bad aspects of your personality. But this is the core idea with the Magician. He is channeling a sense of order from above to below. And in many ways, we can see the conscious mind as doing this. In fact, we can even take the idea of a person doing it out and simply say that the conscious mind is this kind of machine or apparatus that achieves this, setting things in a certain way. And relating to this, we see that this kind of arbor, this very basic sort of roof above him, has got roses in it, symbols of desire. And then the garden beneath him has roses and lilies. So what's that saying? It's saying that there's like down here, you've also got this sense of rationality. The lilies are kind of like the intellectual mind a bit, and then the roses are more the desire nature. So the suggestion is that it's just up here, it's just kind of libidinal forces of desire and emotion and energy from the channel above. But when he brings that stuff down here, he's making order of it. He's using his intellect, and he's creating order. And it's easy to look around at the world in the kind of 2020s and to say it's all very structured and ordered, but in many ways, this has only been achieved by us having extremely rigid mental constructs, extremely rigid mental concepts for hundreds and hundreds, maybe couple of thousand years. Without that, we would be living in this very chaotic kind of jungle. So in a sense, the cultures that we've been brought up in, they have instrumentalized our personalities to create a sense of order in certain ways. So these are all interesting ideas that come from this character, the magician. He's got a table here, a little table plinth with a bit of sort of ornate stuff on it, and it's got these 4 symbols of the elements: cups for water, sword for air, pentacle for earth, and a wand for fire. So these are also on the lower level, so they've been separated, so that's giving certain suggestions. This snake eating its own tail is like a symbol for like a negative feedback loop in cybernetics, where a process is kept within certain boundaries, basically, through feedback, rather like a thermostat keeps a room between 2 temperatures, switching on and off a heating pump. This red robe is a kind of symbol of desire, nature. He's got a white robe underneath it, a symbol of purity. And he's got this kind of infinity symbol over him, so above him, which is, it's really pointing out of a sense of linear time, I think. So his mind may have put him into a kind of sense of linear time, and he's channeling and creating order according to his own concept of the past and the future. But above him, perhaps he's a bit aware also that this is just, it's a tool, it's not really a deeper reality. This sense of a very structured past and predictable future is really just a part of the channeling. It's a part of the creating something into a sense of order. Okay, cool. So this is a great key to reflect on, and I really recommend that you spend a little more time just taking in all the different elements of it, and then seeing if you can build it up in your mind's eye. Like I say, it's quite a tortuous process at times, but it's really worth the effort, particularly if you spend a minute, 30 seconds, or if you have time a little bit longer, on each of the 22 keys and place them on the tree of life or the cube of space. It's a very powerful thing to do. And otherwise, next week we'll be moving on to the key, which is below, which is the High Priestess, key number 2. So I'll see you back soon for some more Esoteric Tarot and some more mysticism and the body. Thank you very much.